What's up, guys, and welcome to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video. Today we're going to be talking about some under-the-radar characters to be farming for Grand Arena and Territory War. Now, they're not necessarily under the radar because a lot of people use them. They're just characters that aren't farmed for really any other places in the game except for Territory War and Grand Arena, and they are fantastic in that regard. You're not going to hear much about them for Squad Arena or Fleet Arena. Most of them don't even have ships. Well, one of them does, and it's a pretty solid ship. But getting into these characters here, now, I'm going to be spending some time on these characters myself, but there's probably going to be a new character coming out soon, and I'm going to have all the gear ready. I want to have Zetas ready for that, so I'm going to have to hold off until, like, you know, the month of February is over, which is frustrating because I really want to get better at Grand Arena and Territory Wars in general. And the characters we're going to talk about today are the Scoundrel solo characters. There's a few smugglers in there as well. We'll look at the smugglers first because that's really big. So some of the great characters. In fact, I'm going to go over a team first that a buddy of mine, Dagger, awesome guy. We talk a ton on Discord. We shoot ideas off each other. And he showed me a team that he faced that somebody put in the back that he had an absolute nightmare with. And it was a Vandor Chewie lead. Now, Vandor Chewie doesn't have a leadership ability, so this team didn't have a leadership ability. But we're going to read through the team and their abilities, and I'm going to explain why they did it. So the Ferocious Protector, this one was Zeta. This is the one Zeta the guy had in the team. While Chewbacca is buffed, he has 100% counter chance at the end of each turn while Chewbacca is buffed. If any ally took damage from an attack and Chewbacca did not, he recovers protection equal to 10% of his max health, and other Scoundrel allies recover half of that amount. When Chewbacca recovers to max protection this way, he becomes prepared. When another light side Scoundrel ally is defeated, revive that ally at 60% health. If Chewbacca is prepared, that's when he revives them. Then Chewbacca is no longer prepared after he revives somebody. Kind of confusing there. But okay, rejuvenation, recovery of protection, revival, amazing. The other character, one of the other characters he had in there was L3. Now, why would he also put L3 in there? Because his Spark of Hope states that deal physical damage to target enemy and gain taunt for one turn. Heal all Scoundrel and Droid allies for 50% of L3's max health. Then grant all prepared allies tenacity up for 2 turns, so that's also going to be going to Vandor Chewie if he's prepared. If any other allies are prepared, reduce this ability's cooldown by 1. L3 is no longer prepared. So, you're going to be healing there as well. We're just going to look through all the abilities. The first one, deal physical damage to target enemy and inflict defense down. Prepared. If L337 is prepared, she gains 10% max health stacking until the end of the encounter. She's getting stronger and she's able to heal. She's going to be able to take more damage. That's what most of this is for. This wasn't Zeted. At the start of L337's turns, if L337 didn't take damage from an enemy since her last turn, she becomes prepared. Whenever another droid or Scoundrel ally takes damage, L3 gains 15% turn meter. Whenever L3 takes damage from an attack, she dispels debuffs from a random debuffs Scoundrel ally. Wow! So she's going to be dispelling as well. This is amazing. So you're having protection and health regeneration from Vandor and Vandor's other abilities that he gains stuff for himself too. L3 is going to be healing. Let's look at the self-modification. L3 has plus 25% max protection. When L3 becomes prepared, she gains taunt for 1 turn at the start of each encounter. L3 becomes prepared at the start of battle. She gains enhanced Mark 1. What does Mark 1 do? She gains 50% counter chance. What does Mark 2 do? 30% critical chance and avoidance and 100% defense. And then Mark 3, counter chance to 100%. So she's going to be countering. When she counters, she has a chance to continually gain health, plus to dispel. This is amazing. This is like a nightmare team again to face. And then the last character that they had in this team was, I actually have to go up to Old Republic here, and it was Zalbar. And Zalbar, again, what is he good at? He's a tank. He's good at surviving. His basic says deal physical damage and inflict 2 damage over time effects on target enemy for 2 turns. Zalbar recovers 10% health. Okay, he's recovering health. Power Blast. Deal physical damage to all enemies and gain taunt for 3 turns, so he's taunting as well. On a critical hit, inflict armor shred on target enemy for the rest of the battle. Armor shred will be nice because are these characters going to be doing a lot of damage? No, because they're mostly tanks. But they're about survivability. I mean, how many battles are you going to have that are going to time out with a team like this? Wookiee Toughness. Zalbar gains 20% defense stacking each time he takes damage from an attack for 1 turn. And then Missions Guardian, we will read it. The person that was using this team didn't have this ability Zeted, but if you did, it would help even more. Zalbar has plus 25% critical avoidance. If mission is present, she also gains this bonus, which is why I'm going to talk about a few mission teams later. When any other ally falls below 100% health, Zalbar gains Taunt and Retribution for 2 turns. At the start of each of his turns, Zalbar and Mission recover 10% protection for each damage over time effect on enemies. So if he's giving any damage over time effects, he's healing. So the 3 characters, we don't have a leadership ability, but all 3 characters are going to be rejuvenating, potentially reviving, and healing. Protection, health, everything. This is why it was a nightmare team to take out. Now, the person placed this in the back. Would this be a team you'd want to place in front? No, because your CLS teams, your Revan teams, your Traya teams, they're going to be able to get through that. They're able to get through anything. But once you use a majority of your great meta teams, what are some teams you usually use? Okay, maybe you have a Jedi team saved up with Jedi Knight Anakin. Maybe you're going to run a Jin and Chase team. Maybe you didn't put them on defense and you have a Jin lead with Chirrut and Baze. Those average teams, even if they're at gear 12, they're not meta-defining teams, are going to struggle to get through teams like this. My buddy said it took him like 6-7 battles and he never even got through it, and the team still had like full health and protection. I mean, that's just nuts. That's amazing. That's why Grand Arena Territory Wars is great, but specifically with Grand Arena, the strategy involved is fantastic. That's why I love it. I mean, there are so many teams that we haven't found out, or people are starting to figure out, that we're going to talk about. And like I said, these characters aren't really utilized in any other areas of the game. Now, with young Lando, who I will talk about here, and L3, their Falcon is very good, by the way. I'm really starting to get that leveled up to use in Fleet Arena as well. But young Lando as well, another good character to start farming. The solo characters, who I decided not to farm when they first come out, because I thought, and even though I'd still like Beckett, Tobias Beckett, Nest was the one character I farmed right away. I got her to 7 stars, and she's amazing. She's one of those, like I said, she's one of those people that you can go on and take in a team. Let's say you're in a 3v3 match, and you get more points the less characters you use. And I got to somebody in the back row that was a decent team, and I just put Nest in, and she wiped them out. I got a bunch more points because I beat them 1-3. Young Han, he can deal damage, more damage over time. Like, legitimately, he gains offense over time. But really, Kira, Vandor, L3, Nest, be farming those characters. Young Han and Young Lando, yes, definitely characters you could farm to help you out there. But they're probably not as important as Kira, Nest, L3, and Vandor. Vandor Chewie is very underrated in this aspect of the game and stuff like that. Now, I do want eventually to get another like smuggler leader here because we don't have one. I think that should be Hondo. Please bring Hondo Ohnaka to the game. He's one of my favorite characters in the entire Star Wars universe, and I think he could really take him to the next level. I kind of want him to be a neutral character too. I don't want him to be dark side. He's probably more light than, well, in the Clone Wars TV series, he was kind of a dark, evil character, but he's always, especially in Rebels, you just love the guy. I hope he's a neutral character because he's out for himself, but still. So please look at these solo characters here. Now we're also going to take a look at the Old Republic characters, and Mission and Zalbar are 2 characters you should be farming immediately. One, you're going to have Jedi Knight Revan, Jolee, Bastila, Zalbar, T3, and Mission. You're going to have those characters farmed, or maybe not have Revan, but you'll have the other 5 for sure farmed because you're needed to get Revan. And let me tell you, Mission and Zalbar are 2 characters I'm going to be gearing up and leveling up, because let's look at Karth here and Karth's leadership ability. Let's read it. Soldier of the Old Republic. Old Republic allies gain 10% potency, tenacity, and critical avoidance. Okay, I'm going to go all the way up there. What was I doing? This is a Zeta ability. Old Republic allies gain 30% potency, tenacity, and critical avoidance. Whenever an enemy is afflicted with a damage over time effect, all Old Republic allies recover 3% health and protection. When an Old Republic ally uses their basic ability during their turn, they have an 80% chance to call another Old Republic ally to assist, dealing 50% less damage, limit to once per turn. Now, is Karth farmable yet? No, he's not in any nodes yet. He can only be found in the shipments. But once he is able to be farmed, please, well, I think you're going to need him for the Ebon Hawk. He's probably going to be needed for that. He might even be the pilot if Revan isn't. And him, Zalbar, Mission. I think a trio of terror when it comes to 3v3 in Grand Arena. Because we read what Zalbar can do, and it works even better with Mission. Now let's look at Mission's abilities. Don't blink. Deal physical damage to target enemy with a 70% chance to inflict daze. Daze is amazing. Mission gains turn meter if the target enemy was debuffed. Street smarts. Mission dispels all debuffs on herself. Gains 50% turn meter in stealth for 1 turn. Mission and Zalbar gain protection up for 2 turns. I love it. Protection up is amazing. Inflict blind on target enemies. Now blind is, she's the only person in this game that has blind so far. Now you see me. Mission has plus 80% potency and inflicts damage over time on target enemy for 2 turns when she uses an ability. This damage over time, which is what's amazing, is what will work well with Karth. When an enemy resists, Mission gains 20% potency stacking until she inflicts a damage over time effect. So basically, if she doesn't lay an effect, damage over time effect, she's eventually going to lay one. And then me and Big Z forever. This is a Zeta. Mission has plus 50% offense. If Zalbar is present, he also gains this bonus. Once per turn, Mission assists when Zalbar uses an ability. When Zalbar takes damage from an attack, Mission gains 10% offense stacking for 2 turns. When Mission deals damage to an enemy, Zalbar recovers 10% health. So again, you're able to recover health. You're able to get bonus protection. And I could see this team being very good on defense again as well. Probably the toughest team I've ever faced was a 5v5 team in Grand Arena. And it was a Kira lead. It had Mission, Zalbar, L3, and Vander Chewy. It was an absolute nightmare. It was in the front row with this team that I faced it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna save it because this looks like a team I'll be able to take out easy at some point in time. Yeah, right. So I use Revan, CLS, Treya. Well, I put most of those on defense, but some of my better teams, like a Palp team and stuff like that, I thought, okay, I took out all the other teams. I'm like, okay, I'm going to throw my Wedge team at this. This should be cake. Wasn't even close. I could not get past it. Literally 7 tries. Wasn't even coming close. I decided to just cut my losses and leave that team be. I still won the match. No. I lost that match because of that. Because I couldn't get past that one team. So that's what's great about this. If any of you guys have any secret teams or ideas you would like to share, please leave comments in the comment section below about them. That's what makes this great, because T3, I think we're going to have a droid team here eventually that could be very viable. Hopefully HK47 gets some sort of rework, or at least gets the Old Republic tag, and he can be used with T3. Juhani, a character that I think is going to be very, very good. I think she was kind of designed to be put in a Revan lineup for General Kenobi, but General Kenobi is still better. But she's a tank that can actually do some damage too, and it's going to be interesting to see what lineups we can fit her into, and maybe even a arena lineup at some point in time. But also, let's take a look at Canderous here as an Old Republic character, because he is also he might be good with Karth as well. Deal physical damage and attack again. If the enemy had protection before this attack, Canderous attacks for a 3rd time and inflicts tenacity down for 2 turns. He's probably good at taking, in fact, they actually said this when he came out, he's good against taking out other tanks. So he's going to be a counter to some of these teams. Overwhelming firepower, deal physical damage to all enemies, inflict offense down for 2 turns. This attack ignores defense. Mandalorian veteran, at the start of battle, Canderous gains 10% health steal and potency for each Old Republic and Scoundrel ally. Whenever Canderous deals damage to an enemy, he inflicts a damage over time effect for 2 turns. More damage over time. He could be in with Karth too. I have a feeling you're going to have your Old Republic team with a Revan lead with Bastila, Jolie, etc. And then you're going to have a 5v5 team with a Karth lead, Canderous, Mission, Zalbar, and then maybe T3. We'll look at the other ones here. And then I like a challenge which has a Zeta. Canderous deals 50% more damage with interminable and assault and overwhelming firepower to enemies who are taunting, again, death marked or marked. Whenever an enemy with damage over time effect is damaged by an attack, Canderous gains 8% turn meter. When an enemy gains taunt or becomes death marked or marked, Canderous gains critical chance up and critical damage up for 2 turns. I believe that's the Zeta. Probably not the most important Zeta in the game because he's still going to be doing damage without that. But again, the solo faction characters and these Old Republic characters who you should be farming anyway, and most of you have farmed them, definitely characters to invest in for this reason. I mean, 3v3, 5v5, great teams to put on defense in my opinion, and some of them to be able to take out some of those tanky teams like we talked about. So again, these are characters that are really not utilized for anything else, but are going to be of tremendous value in Grand Arena. In fact, I've lost 1 Grand Arena, and the solo characters made the difference. I could not get past them. And that's the one I was talking about there with that line of Kira, L3, Net, or it wasn't Nest, but then in another match that I ended up winning, I have to get some footage of it. I took out every team but one, and of course it was a Kira lead team again. So these characters, make sure to be farming them if you love this aspect of the game. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please smash the subscribe button, like the video, click the notification bell so you can be alerted to all videos that I post. Also, I'm leaving a link to my Discord server and Patreon page in the description below. Make sure to check that out. And comments. What teams do you use? Do you agree with what I just talked about? Do you disagree with what I talked about? And what do you want to see more of? Video ideas, please. You guys are the bread and butter of this, and I need those ideas to keep going. So otherwise, peace out, and may the force be with you.